Carrick's back. See, there's my introduction now.
Ooh.
I'm too lazy. I used to do Coach Steve show, but nah. Coach Carrick's back. Anybody that listened before, he was here way back when. Way back.
It's crazy to think that was way back. And now I'm giggling because I remember Coach Steve's show, or not Coach Steve's show, Darren's show was first, Coach Sheffer. And he had me send him an introduction, and he had an outline. And, for some reason that was my expectation. It was one of the first of these I did, and then realized no one else really does that.
He's very professional about it.
Yeah. I don't need you to read off a bio.
He's very professional about it because that's all the big timers kind of do. And then I felt bad when you did because then there was me. Here's this lazy country kid who's not going to do this. He's just.
I mean, they're all means to an end. We all get to the same place.
I kind of did it afterwards. There's some people I go, oh, here's Coach so-and-so coaches somewhere. And that's my whole introduction. I didn't give a background. I was just oh, they coach here.
Yeah, I'm sure if there was I don't know, bigger guests, right? If there's someone that's there's a respect thing of yeah, I'm going to let you know why this person is important and why you should pay attention.
I think I did it for some college coaches. Some of the college coaches I've talked to, I'm yeah, I'm going to say them. But it's not even big. I guess they're big time. Who was the last? I talked to the OC at University of Indianapolis, Brad Wilson. He was the last one. That's the last episode I recorded back in January or February.
I met a bunch of guys. I don't know if that staff has turned over at all in the last couple of years, but they brought a bunch of guys to the Michigan Exposure U camp. And I remember talking to them. They were good dudes.
Yeah, he coached at North Central here in Naperville before, so it's a small world because I said I live in Naperville, and he goes, wait, so you know North Central? Do you know Crosstown Wings? And I'm I've never been there yet. And he's you asshole, you need to go.
Is that a Naperville thing?
It's apparently every person I talk to that knows anything about Naperville, that's the first thing they say. So when I coach at Addison,
really,
they're have you gone to Crosstown? And it's right down the street. It's 8 minutes down the street. And I've always driven by it. And I was no. So I got COVID at the end of January, beginning of February. And so stayed home for 10 days. About the 12th day, the OC was hey, let's go get wings. Now my taste was still kind of gone. So I went. I couldn't taste a thing. So my first experience of that place, I couldn't taste anything still. COVID's not fun.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Glad you survived.
I had it was a headache. It was a migraine. I didn't go to school that day because I had a migraine. And I'm I get maybe 1 or 2 bad headaches a year. When the weather shifts, that's when it happens. And I was just I'm not going to go to school and look at a computer screen. But then I was let's get tested. Got tested. An hour later, congratulations, you're positive.
Yikes. I was just Naperville, not being from Illinois, I met people from Naperville in college, and then I had to quickly learn that those people would be I'm from Chicago. And then and everyone's oh, where? And they're Naperville. And then I was Naperville's not actually Chicago.
Yeah, but they have to say Chicago because you're not going to know.
Right.
That was the thing at Eastern. That's the thing at Eastern. When I met people, I'd be where are you from? And they tell me the suburb. And I'm I don't know what that is. They're Chicago. Now that I live here, my friends back home say, Steve, you live in Chicago. And I say, no, I don't live in Chicago. I live in DuPage County. I live an hour away from the city.
Yeah, it's very different. And I still even neighborhoods in Chicago or anything, close by suburbs. I'm I've never heard of this. I don't know where that is. North, south, I guess not east would be the lake.
Because your school's in the city, right?
Yeah.
I love the picture you put up. You could see the skyline.
We're very fortunate with our views.
Because my friend who lives by Carbondale, who's on here a lot, he asked me one day, he goes, what are the high schools in the city? And I was that's a fair question because I've never been to one. I showed him your picture. I was hold on a second. So I found and showed him. I was I think this is what it's like.
I mean, we're very fortunate with our views, being near like the highway and the river. So like you can see the skyline very directly. Um, there's really not that many schools in like the Loop downtown proper.
Mm-hmm.
Like I drive by Lane Tech every so often, but that's not really like, I mean, I guess it's in the city, but it's not downtown.
Where's the Walter Payton one?
This is one of those things I should know, but I don't.
Because I was going to apply for that head job like a year ago. But I was like, that's in the city. I don't want to do that.
I think it's a little bit more west.
Okay.
I feel like I passed it when we were like house hunting at some point.
Because he asked me what the schools are like in the city. Because like even here, you're surrounded by grass or you're away, like the high school's away. So we're like, we're like, are the high schools like a part of a building? Are they right next to a skyscraper? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know how the city works.
When I lived like in the South Loop, what's down there? Jones, what's the time? Like Jones College Prep, I think, like takes up an entire city block, and like it is surrounded by like high rises and stuff like that. But they don't have like, I think most of their athletics are either co-opt or like they don't practice there. Like they don't have field space downtown. So we're fortunate that we just got practice fields like across the street from the school.
Because I almost coached at Phillips.
Okay.
Like 3 years ago. Yeah, 2018. He needed a coach and he sent me a message. And I was like, oh, I want to coach there. And I was like, wait, that's the South Side. To drive from a suburb to there would have taken me an hour at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah. And on like between summer and fall, and you're like, all right, that's like 6 months of my year. Like it gets to be a lot.
Because I wasn't going to work there. I was going to work in Elmhurst still.
Oh, right.
So I'd be lucky to leave at 3:15. I was like, I may not get there till 4:30.
Has your school had to like hire a lot of coaches? Like I feel we've been struggling to try to hire good coaches.
I don't think so. I'm new, and the D-line coach is new, but everybody else that's there has coached there before. But like basketball and equal, I got hired because somebody left. Track coach, but yeah, I don't think so. No.
Yeah,
I know some schools have struggled.
Like, you can put the job posting up and you can shoot it out to, Football Scoop and all that stuff. But I don't know. I have no idea if other coaches actually have a lot of success doing that. And I don't have like a network of enough people in Chicago to be able to reach out or like, I've coached with multiple different staffs here.
Do you think it's because now you guys are in a private school though, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I was going to say maybe it's because it's Chicago public school and with COVID, they don't want to deal with it. That could be a reason. Because it's spring. Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, because we're looking for the fall now, and I think we're finally going to go. I hope this isn't, I don't think this is privileged information, but like we're planning on having 3 levels because we've been building our program and finally we'll have enough kids to support 3 levels. Mm-hmm. So our head coach was just like, oh, we're going to need a whole other staff. And we were like, shoot, we should probably start planning that.
Right.
So if anyone's listening and wants to come coach in Chicago, I might have a job for you.
It's a great view. You get a great view every day.
It's a great view. And depending on how you feel about this podcast, you can coach with me, whether that's a positive or a negative. I guess that's up to you.
I'm glad you think this podcast reaches a lot of people. It doesn't.
I like to pretend it does.
Yeah, I should look at the numbers.
When I tell my players that I'm a podcast guest, they like look at me in awe, and they're like, "That's so cool." And I was like, "I know." So I just assume everyone watches it.
Oh, I have to remember because I'll do podcasts with my 2 friends on Sundays. Well, I just go off the loop. I'm just like cursing just because of what I do. Then I forget. My kids probably know the podcast is out there. I'm like, shoot.
I probably, but at this point, my kids say way worse things than most of the things I would say in public. So,
well, I'm not
I think we're all right.
I think it's parents. I don't want.
Oh yeah.
But then I'm gonna be like, you say this at home probably, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, that would be. I don't know. I'll let you know if I run into anything.
You're probably okay because you're the guest, but since this is like the act, like mine, they're like, oh, because I already know two kids when I first got to the school last summer. Oh, you have a podcast? And I was like, yeah. And that was before I would fly off the cuff. And now I just do. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Nah. I think it's good for players to understand that. I even look back and think of like when I was a high school player, like I never thought about like my coaches having lives outside of practice. Like I only saw them, from 4 to 6.
That's
and
true.
Then you just assume they, evaporate and then just reappear the next day. It's like, no, we're like people. We have lives. We've coached in different places. We've had different like experiences. Like when you have guys that are getting ready to go to college, and you're like, no, like I've done it. Like I've taken the ACT. Like I can tell you what you should like maybe major in or like try to counsel you and what that transition's like.
The first time I realized my coaches were not just coaches was when you're done and you start talking about having adult beverages with them. You're like, oh, you're more than just the coach. And then you would do, and you're like, oh, this is weird.
I do catch myself every now and then where like, if it were just friends, right, you'd like launch into a story and be like, I can't tell you that story yet. Maybe one day.
Yeah, one day I can tell them the story, but I do that with coaches on the sideline. I might start saying something or at practice like, oh, wait a minute, there's kids around. I can't say what happened here. Or like what I did in high school because...
Oh, definitely not.
And I don't even say that here. Like I have to be like, oh, yeah, I didn't do that. Because then they're going to get ideas.
True.
Or we already know they're doing something.
Well, yeah.
Especially today, we had no practice. I'm like, oh, and they're on spring break. I'm like, oh, yeah.
I always just went with, especially over the summer, like if they had like a long weekend or something, or just in general on Friday, it just became kind of the running joke where I'd end it with like, oh, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And everyone's like, ha, 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 ha. And I was like, all right, well.
Yeah, I tried.
I told you. What you think that means is totally different.
Well, that's why coaches sometimes that don't come in on Saturdays, a big reason why we will is because we don't want them to do, like, you have to be here Saturday morning early just to see, like, yeah, we're going to watch film. It's like, so you don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, you're there. You're accounted for. In the past, we had who we like partnered with for off-season training. Sometimes they'd come in and just do like stretching or yoga, right? That like 9, 10 a.m. just like get all that stuff out, and that was pretty good before film, just to see who how banged up someone actually was versus making sure they were actually like awake and accounted for.
Right. Because there was a coach I had, they don't practice on Saturdays. It's very interesting. I had him on the podcast, Coach Dixon. He kind of explained what they do. They do the speed-based training, the Tony Holler stuff from Plainfield North. They wear full pads only on Wednesdays, I think. And they only do like 10 plays a team. He calls it caging them up. So then on Friday, he just like unleashes them. I'm paraphrasing. I have to go back and fully listen. But they take it easy. They don't practice as long. They don't do as much. And they're fresh. Like the kids are really fresh. And they went to the state title game like 2 years ago. And they were just fresh.
I mean,
it's very interesting.
I'd give it a consideration. But to me as a coach, like that just sounds terrifying. Like we can't even like, sometimes we don't trust to call things that like we know we've practiced, 30 times in a week or something like that.
Yeah, they run the wing tee, I think. I'm paraphrasing, so if he listens to this, I apologize, which he may not, but I'm just paraphrasing. Then my buddy who does the Sunday stuff with me, he does the speed-based training too. like for his track kids and stuff. It's very interesting how he gets his kids faster. Are you guys tired of overpaying for your cable? Do you think, oh, I need to go to the streaming side so I can save some money? Are you tired of taking out a small loan to pay for the cable just to watch things? There's so many streaming services. Do you not know or are having a hard time pick which streaming service? Well, looking for you, the Coach Steve Show, which is on the Unhinged Sports Network, have a proud partnership with Fubo TV. Fubo TV has over 100 plus channels. They have NBC, CBS, Fox, ABC, ESPN, much more without the hassle of that cable contract. If you don't believe me, go to the link in the bio. You can get a 7-day free trial today. So if you click on the link in the bio of the episode, you can get a free 7-day trial to support the Unhinged Sports Network, to support the Coach Steve Show podcast. Please use that link. Guys, it's time to cut the cord. Streaming services is where it's at. Get the internet, get the streaming service. You can, if you don't like it, get rid of it, but I think you're going to like it. That's why there's a 7-day free trial. Cut the cord. Quit taking out small loans to pay for this cable network. Please don't let these cable people trick you into getting into a 3-year contract, 2-year contract, and raising your rates. Go to Fubo TV. Best way to watch all the sports, any shows that you watch. So please support the show. Go click on the link now. Try it out for 7 days free. Cut the cord. As you guys know, the Coach Steve Show is also brought to you by the Unhinged Sports Network. The Unhinged Sports Network is a 24-hour, 7 days a week, nonstop playing radio podcast about any sport that you guys can imagine. They have a proud partnership with Fanatics. So if you go to the link in the description, go to Fanatics, use that link, and go get some gear to support the Coach Steve Show and to support the Unhinged Sports Network. They have deals all the way up to 70% off. They have deals for free shipping. And they have every single sports team you could think of. Your college team is going to be on there. Your professional team is going to be on there. They have good deals on jerseys, T-shirts, hats, socks, anything you want. So please use the link in the description to go to fanatics.com. Save big on your team's gear to help support the Unhinged Sports Network and to support the Coach Steve Show. No, I think my new job, I would love to do podcast by morning, coach, and then podcast by night. That'd be the dream, like content.
I had that dream of like, well, I should say I have, right? Like it's not something I'm actively working on, but like, yeah, if like things were to like take off, right? Like something happens and you get the guest or make the video or something goes viral and you're like, yeah, if I could do this full time, maybe I would. That seems like a lot of pressure. And then it becomes like an actual job. It's like, I kind of like just doing this like for fun.
Yeah, but I would think being Pat McAfee's pretty fun. Like,
yeah,
that'd be fun.
The doing it your own way is definitely and having good people around you. But to actually like make content and be like, wait, I need a video to get 1 million views or else I'm not going to be able to like afford food.
That's true.
Yeah.
I just feel like doing that or like, pardon my take, that those things are the dream. And that's why I changed the show name. I was like, Joe Rogan just talks to anybody. I need to change the name. But Steve, you're not Rogan. But it took him a long time.
Yeah. And I think that's the kids these days. I was just having this thought and I think I had a conversation with someone. Like everyone always wants to know like what's the best way to do something, or like if it's not, if there's not a clear path to do it, or like, if there might be some struggle or like meandering on how to do something. Like I feel like a lot of my players like don't do it. And like every question you see on the internet is like, what's the best of this? It's like, no, some of it is just like doing it. And like, you're going to have to make mistakes and like the grind, right? Like you might do the podcast for 10 years before anyone actually listens to it, but like you still have to do it.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing now. The Marvel stuff's not kicking off too well. Then I started a second podcast for Walking Dead stuff because I'm a nerd. That's not kicking off at all.
Walking Dead reminds me of an ex-girlfriend, and I was going to wait. I figured we'd get the football stuff out of the way before we nerded out too much. But I convinced my wife to start WandaVision. And after an episode and a half, she's like, I'm out. And I was like, yeah.
You got to get the first 2 are rough. It's good, but you're that's the point though. You're supposed to be like, what the hell? And
I knew that, and it's just like, okay, clearly like I know it's a Marvel thing. And like, it's not just a kitschy, like time and place sitcom. And like, I know the characters, right? Like sort of, as my puppy is getting up, hopefully he chills out. But no, I've given it, I think I got another episode or so into it. But I know you tweet about it and everyone else is like, you just need to get through the first 2 episodes kind of thing. And like, it picks up.
Well, that's why they released those first 2 the same day. They did that on purpose. So when it first came out, they gave out those 2 that same day. And we're all excited. We're like, oh, 2 episodes. Then you realize what they were.
Yeah.
And it gets better. I love it. If you listen, you don't need to, but I ranted about, I'm like, hold on. Marvel pissed me off on some of it. Then we're on Falcon the Winter Soldier right now. It's really good.
All right. I was going to ask if it's worth a watch.
It's a different pace. Like WandaVision is different level, and it's like it makes you think a lot. Falcon the Winter Soldier feels like a Captain America movie. So you can just kind of relax and watch it. Now there's some questions, but it's not like these theories popping all over the place. So you can literally kick back, relax, and they're longer. They're like 45, 50-minute episodes. And there's only going to be 6 of them.
I was gonna say, with WandaVision kicked off and the mom from That 70s Show was in it. And I was like, all right, I'm sold. Like, I'll watch her in anything.
Oh, I liked WandaVision. There was just more I wanted out of it. But I also realized they had to film half of it during COVID.
I don't know where we're at kind of in the lull of where things are. I don't know. My wife and I powered through Blacklist. And like let's see, this isn't a spoiler, but like the last episode of the most recent season, like they got half of it filmed before COVID. And
you saw the comic thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
And like, it wasn't like good animation.
It's like a comic book moving.
Yeah, but not even like a good one.
No,
it's like very blurry in parts, and like it's purposely
like a video game, like a PlayStation 2 video game.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So that was, it kind of just takes you out of it, and you're like, I appreciate it that they were able to get the story out, but like nowhere near as good as.
Well, we're huge Blacklist fans too. Well, it's mainly me. So that wasn't even supposed to be the end of that season, but since COVID hit, they were like, we have to finish it. We have to do something. And then the first 2 episodes of this season was supposed to be the end of that one.
So they had to mess with the timeline a little bit.
Right. So like the first 2 episodes of this season, they said like, this is how season 7 was supposed to end with these 2. But now they had to add it into this season at the beginning. But with football and stuff, I haven't watched the last like 4. It's all recorded.
Yeah, and they're not doing those on Netflix yet. I imagine they'll wait for the season to finish.
Yeah, I'm afraid though they might send them to Peacock because NBC. That's what I'm afraid of. I hope not. I hope Netflix is like, no, we can do both. But when Peacock took The Office off, I'm like, it's gonna happen.
Hopefully,
I don't want to pay for it.
Well, at the end of the day, that's kind of what it comes down to. Or you're like, is it there the 7-day free trial that I can like burn through everything?
Yeah, so you can just wait till the season's over. It goes there and be like 7 days, sit down and watch it. But Blacklist is losing me a little bit.
Yeah, it's faded a little bit.
This season, the story has already dragged on too long.
No.
And they've just renewed for another season. So it's like, I don't know. I love James Spader though, so I'm like pushing through.
Yeah, that's where there's even through the last season, and you're like, they've spent 8 seasons like building up this storyline. Like the payoff better be something worth it.
That's how I feel right now. It kind of was the first 2 episodes, it's kind of worth it, but then it's already opened up another door. And it's like, how many doors can you open? I'm like, it's James Spader. You got to push through. Like, I love Boston Legal and stuff. So, like, I love James Spader. I was kind of hoping he'd show up in Marvel again, but hasn't happened yet.
Well, and the number of times they've like false flagged, like kind of Game of Thrones style, where you're left thinking one thing for several episodes, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Nope, just kidding." So then you can't even really believe what you're seeing, and you're like, "Are they just going to get me again?" I'm trying very hard not to bring up any like plot points. I don't know if anyone needs spoiler alerts for year-old Blacklist stuff, but.
Again, I do Walking Dead, and my friends say, Steve, no one cares about The Walking Dead. I'm like, I care.
It's always the off chance someone hears it and they're like, you know what? All right, I want to go watch it. And it's like, well, I don't want to give away like major stuff.
Well, that's why my friend, when I started the Walking Dead podcast, he was like, Steve, what if you go back and rewatch the whole series and do each episode for people that have never watched it? And I'm like, I could do that. So I may have to do that, but there's 10 seasons.
It's an excuse to do that. Like I've always looked at, every so often on Netflix when I'm looking for something new, like you pass like Breaking Bad and you're like, do I really want to sit down and watch all of Breaking Bad again? You're like, not really, unless I had like a reason to.
That's how I love How I Met Your Mother. And that's something I can put on every day in the background. Like if I just can't decide on what to watch and I just don't want to start something new, I either put on a podcast on YouTube or I can put that on. And Breaking Bad's turned into that. Breaking Bad's the best show I've ever seen, but that's what that's turned into.
Yeah, because you can still kind of watch them. Like once you know the story, you can kind of jump in anywhere and be like, all right, I kind of remember what's going on. I mean, there's, the subplots and whatever that are like the subtleties you might miss, but you can still pop it on and like it's still entertaining.
Well, that's what's happened with this Walking Dead. It's gone on for 10 seasons. And what they did was the season finale was supposed to come out during COVID, but they had it filmed. They just weren't able to cut it and edit it yet. So it was delayed for like 3 months. They brought it on. We watched it 3 months later, 2 months later. Then it got announced that the next season would be the last. So season 11 would be the last. It's supposed to be 24 episodes instead of 16. Then there were supposed to be these movies that were spinning off of it, but COVID happened and they weren't able to do it yet. So then all of a sudden they go, we're going to film 6 extra episodes, add them on to season 10. So the past 5 weeks, we've gotten 5 episodes that are adding on to season 10, and they are god awful. Because they were filmed during COVID. And so they said, like one episode, you saw 4 characters because there's the social distancing stuff. They try to film it during COVID. And it's supposed to hold us over. And I'm like, I almost rather you didn't film these at all. Now, this next episode, the one coming out Sunday, which is like the season finale now, is supposed to be the best one they've ever done. It's Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in it, and it's going to be awesome. But that's the only one we're looking forward to. Or I'm the Walking Dead fan. But yeah, it's...
I do think there's going to be, I feel like you're right there. Like we look back when there was like the writer's strike and you're like, oh, the writer's strike destroyed a bunch of shows that like were very good or had a lot of potential. And I feel like now for like years to come, it's going to be like, oh, that show was good up until COVID, or like, those 5 episodes just like went off the rails.
These are filler episodes, like in Breaking Bad, the fly one where he's trying to kill the fly the whole time. That was a filler episode. That's what these Walking Dead ones feel like.
And it's just like, why? Like, what's the point? Just, people will watch them.
But like, you read about, like people put up for like 3 episodes. The first, the one they came out with, and then these next have just fallen off. And you're reading about it and people are mad. They're like, why? What's the point of this? Oh, we're set up season 11. And we're like, you might as well just have waited. Like, they're mad.
So to pivot slightly back to sports.
This is what happens.
I love it. Did you check out the new Last Chance U? When they switched to basketball? I haven't either.
Not watched yet.
But like, you're a basketball guy, so I had figured you may have, but part of me wants to protest just out of spite.
That's not football.
Yeah, right. Like it was such a good story, and you have like the huge team. You've got like storylines, and I haven't watched it, so I'm sure they probably kept some of it. But there was just something very, I don't even know what the word is, right? Like not familiar, but like you felt like you were a part of like that small town program. And I have no idea if like JUCO basketball is like that.
I've heard it's good. Heard nothing but good things. I listened to Greg Whiteley, the producer, and he was like, you can only do so much with football. Like if they kept going to JUCOs, it was going to be the same thing over and over. So he's like, we got to switch it. But then I'm like, couldn't you just upgrade and try to go to bigger schools then? But then I guess that gets rid of the point. But
I mean, they do it like Hard Knocks is still essentially the same thing every year.
right,
You know, all those shows, what QB1, they've done
yeah,
that sort of stuff. Like that's the lane people want, right? Like there are stories to tell. There are people. There's, you know, however many JUCO teams that people might go to, and to either, I don't know whether they look at it as like however many kids like don't know JUCO exists, and you're like, hey, this is an option that you can do, right? Because like it's not like a huge talked about thing, or like, you know, if you flunk out of a D1 school, right? Like this is how you kind of like rehab your image or your career or your playing days. Or the flip side of like, hey, don't think you can just go glamorize this. Like this is all the work this actually takes. And like not everyone is successful doing it.
And I really liked the California one. They had really showing that. I wish they would have done another, either the same one
Yeah.
or went to a different California school. Because I had the D line coach from Langley on here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Clearly, I've been a huge fan. Sorry.
No, I had him on. It was like a 2 hour or something because he said I was the first guy he's talked to about football since COVID. He has not been at the school. They haven't been able to do nothing. He's a PE teacher at a high school. So he has to drive there. And he was like, you're the first guy I've talked to about football. So we were on for like 2 hours.
I mean, that whole like the whole story was just great. Like you said, like it felt very different after they left the Midwest. But like there are stories of like, you know, Oakland, right? Like, and that community and that coach. And it's been a while since I watched it. And if I remember right, that season ends like right as COVID hits, and they're doing like Zoom meetings with the guys who have like tried to just go start their career somewhere that didn't.
Like the season ended, and then the catch up stuff they do was like during COVID. So it was like signing day was virtual and all of this stuff. And so they could have, I don't even know if they could have done football because basketball was filmed. I think it was filmed before COVID too. I don't know. I don't know if they could even have done it.
This year, no, probably.
Yeah. But it would have been interesting to see like how a team handles all the COVID stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just you've gone through it, right? Like the, you know, socially distanced workouts, right? The different levels, the different phases. What are we allowed to do today? What are we allowed to do tomorrow? Like never knowing like what's going to be okay, and knowing that everything could go away. Like there, have you had teams in your league that have had to like bow out games like due to COVID?
Not yet, but like, so where I coach basketball at Nequa, they had to. They played their first game against Naperville North. A couple days later, they had a positive test. And then, so they got told they couldn't play for 2 weeks. And then poor Naperville North, they were doing their contact tracing, but they were planning on playing. They were like, you can still play. We're just doing our contact tracing. The day of the game last weekend, they got told they couldn't play by the department. So like that's going on right now.
Because like IC prep wasn't our normal week or our original week 2. Like we were supposed to play Marmion, and they popped positive for COVID. So we rescheduled and got IC. And I forget if like their opponent had COVID or they were just looking for a week 2 or whatever. And then I think somehow Marmion decided they could then play, and they wound up playing Naperville North.
But then they got canceled, I think.
Naperville
Central. Maybe it was Naperville Central.
Maybe it was I think it was Naperville Central, maybe. Because I know that game did happen.
Yeah, I think it was Naperville Central. The red. Yeah, that's Naperville Central. because I live right down the street from North, and I know the DC there. But I remember seeing like, oh, you can't play now. Mount Carmel, they had stopped for 3 weeks.
Yeah. And it's crazy the coaching cliche of like, any play could be your last. Like, we have to tell our kids, like, don't do anything stupid. Like, you could ruin football for everyone. Like, that's how serious it is.
We had a scare, like a kid did not feel good, and we're like, here it comes. He got tested positive with the flu, and we're like, okay, that works. But then I started to question. I was like, wait a minute, politics coming into my brain. I'm like, wait a minute, where was that? Now, I know I didn't have the flu. I had COVID like 100%. I was like, now, wait a minute about me. But I was like, no, I lost it. My smell is still messed up to this day. But I was like, wait a minute, you could test positive for the flu now? But thank God. I was like, thank God. But
well, and even just, we had an away game. We had to make sure, there was a freshman bus and a varsity bus, right? Because if something happened, like, we didn't want to take the whole program down. And like at Ignatius, we've had 2 sports shut down for periods of time this spring so far. And I get the emails from the school nurse, that are generic. They're like, a student is tested positive. You're like, oh, great.
That was me when I had to tell the principal later on in the day. He had to send out that email. A person at our school has tested positive. Like, I made it. I finally made it. I'm popular now. And I didn't tell anybody except for the teachers I was around. But we go by the rule of, were you within 6 feet for 15 minutes? I was like, no.
I mean, that's the contact tracing standard, at least as far as I understand it.
We were probably 8 feet apart, actually. And so they were like, oh, okay, good. And so then all the teachers threw an uproar. They weren't mad at me at all because I didn't feel like shit until it was a Thursday, but it was Thursday night. So that day I was at school and I felt fine. It was Thursday night. So I told him, I was like, I probably wasn't contagious till nighttime when my headache kicked in. But so they weren't mad at me. They were just like, that's the rule we're going by, is 6 foot. And then the question was, the school calls and they do their contact tracing. And then the department, the school, they said, where were you? I said, I'm going to save you some time. I was in this house area of the school, clean everything. Because I don't remember what I touched. I remember what I ate for breakfast. Just clean the whole thing. No, we have to know. I was like, no, clean the whole thing. That's my answer. I want it in writing that I said clean everything.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're doing. And are you guys? Do you have your players in like masks?
We have the mask on the face shields. We ordered those, which are, I don't understand them because they're away. Like, I don't get it, but I'm going to go with it.
So we have ones, they go inside the face mask and they kind of go like straight across where the face mask would. So, it acts as a shield when the player's wearing a helmet.
Is it Velcroed like on the side?
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I hate that someone had to invent this, right? But like, hey, if due to these things, like we can play a spring football season, like fine, I'll yell at my kids to make sure they have them. And then they've got the gaiters that like, if you take your helmet off, you throw that up on the sideline. And we've had it's crazy, right? Like every different team has different views on it. And like, how are you supposed to do like a mouth guard? And all of our games are live streamed. So you're like, not only are you responsible for like on the team, like the away team and that, but like it gets broadcast to the world. So like they could do contract tracing based on YouTube.
Right. That was our first question, was mouthpieces and masks. And they said, well, they have to have a mouthpiece and a mask over it. And then we said, well, then we had to ask, like, what about those face masks? Like, are they legal? I think you remember. Then the IHSA had to look into it. Like, well, I wonder. Like, they just weren't prepared for that. Like, did you not think that through?
You played in the area where the mouthpiece had to be attached to the face mask, didn't you?
Yeah. And then, when I played, it had to be attached.
That's how I've always been. And it's just like, it was just always seemed easier because I always lost everything as a kid.
I lost it or chewed on it, but it was attached though.
Right. And then like I imagine like as an official, right? Like you can see the line from that. You're like, all right, his mouthpiece is in. So I don't again, they found it. It's worked up to this point.
Yeah. I don't know about you. Sometimes I don't get lazy, but in a practice, when you're just into practice, that's the last thing I'm looking at is the freaking mask. It's when the drill is done. I'm like, wait a minute. And I feel guilty. I know I'm saying that when I probably shouldn't. It just sucks. We have so much stuff going through our mind. And then you have to look over and be like, where's the mask? Like if it dangles down, like, what are you doing?
Right. And you kind of go off the same like contact tracing, right? You're like, all right, are you within 6 feet for 15 minutes? And being like, okay, like you're kind of doing the math and our new practice fields are like fenced, but they're like on 2 main roads. So we always kind of have to be a little bit aware of like who's around, what's going on. Our ADs kind of do their laps, right? So you're like, that kind of gives you that little perk to be like, all right, I should probably pay attention to this a little bit closer. But for the most part, it's an issue as much as you would think it would be an issue for 16 and 17-year-old boys.
Well, and then when you fall into the old school football way of like, all right, come here real quick, and then they come to you and they're like, wait a minute, back up. But like we're going 3 feet now, so now it's even different. Now we're like 6 foot was fine because we could be like, as long as you're far away, we don't care. Now the 3 feet, you're like, wait a minute, like.
There are all the jokes about like, oh, we'll just have like 6 foot splits on the offensive line. Like we can totally play.
Yes. Well, and then you kind of joke about it. I'm new, and the O line's like, well, what's our foot splits? Because they're used to whatever they did last year. I'm like, I want 2.5 to 3 foot. But now that it's 3 foot, I was like, it's got to be 3 feet, guys.
Oh, dogs might go nuts. I'll apologize.
No, it's fine.
We coach in different offenses, but I like the wide splits, right? It like opens everything up, even to the point in the game where it's like, guys, like have a little situational awareness, like know if your guy's the read and like he's gonna come out with you, like maybe kick it to 4, like maybe kick it to 5, right? Like especially if you're like a tackle or a tight end, right? Like if you can bring that guy further away. I think there's a whole thing on like smart splits that I'm sure at some point I should probably read, but that's just kind of the idea.
Well, that's football 101, but we do the same thing. Like if we do power read, I try to tell the tackle or tight end, because I'm the run game corner, like, why don't you cheat this out a little more? Or like our running backs, why don't you go out a little wider? But they don't think that. Then you're yelling in a game and it gives it away. Like, move out.
We get that same kind of thing when it comes to like blitz pickup. And you're like, hey, dummy, like that's the guy that you would normally block, but now he's running towards you. Like you should still block him, right? Or like, if there's 2 of you against 2 of them and one guy blitzes in one direction, like pick the close one up.
Right.
And that kind of football IQ you struggle with.
Well, for us, we were not able to do anything since October. It's like shortly after you and I did the podcast in October, like the end of October, it was like, nope, you're not allowed to see them. We did Zoom. And we didn't see them again until we got the okay in February for contact days. So I'm telling myself where we are now, it would have been July, like in a normal world. Like installing this offense, installing this defense, going through this. This is June, because we got better. Like Friday last night, we lost 28-14. We got better. Watching the film, I'm like, oh, we did get better from the offensive line. I don't look at the wide receivers. I'm like, run game, we got better. And I'm telling the head coach that last night, this is July we're going through right now. We just didn't have time.
Yeah, we've kind of looked at it the same way. It's almost like traditional spring football, or like an extended like preseason, because they're going to have, a month or so off. And then like, we're going to roll right into our normal schedule over the summer. So we want to make sure to have like a good experience for the seniors, right? Like, yeah. And some of them are, 1 foot like out the door into college, which like every senior is. which has been an added, coaching thing this spring. But like everyone's probably dealing with that, right? Like, especially if there's no playoffs, there's no state title.
My friend who coaches, if you ever watch the Sunday show, which you probably don't, and it's probably good because you're a Michigan fan, you wouldn't like it. I'm sure we could talk about that too. And don't kill me. I'll explain my reasonings. They had kids quit. Like they came and then they're like, wait a minute, we don't have playoffs. We're not here. We're done. We're gonna go do this.
I think, yeah, I don't know if we actually lost anyone like that, but like we had a pretty good core of guys that have been committed, right? Been there 4 years, right? They're, captains, they're leaders, all of that. So like we didn't have any attrition in that way, and we want to make sure to send them off well. But at the same time, like you guys are probably going through similar things, right? Like when you start 0-3 and you're like, yeah, this doesn't really count. Like, and this will help us out a lot in the fall.
And I don't know if you experienced this. I found myself like doing too much. Like our situation might be different because like we're kind of putting in a new offense from what they did before, but we were trying. They told me what they did last year, so I was trying to take what they did last year and incorporate it. But I'm like, wait a minute, I want to do this. So like, okay, do this. And I found myself doing too much. And I'm like, Steve, you only have 6 games. This is COVID. Like, we all did it. Every coach, we like installed too much. We're like, we did too much. So now we got to take a step back.
It has been nice this year, outside of like the Marmion IC swap, because we had never played IC before. But we're like, oh, everyone on our schedule is who we played last year. Right. So like we know, at least offensively, right? Like we know what they're going to come out in. Like we know what their, adjustments to certain things are going to be. So once we got our base stuff in, we're like, okay, maybe there's like one tweak or one tag, like just based on what we know they're going to do. But it hasn't been like, hey, we're going to continue a crazy install schedule. Like just get really good at this. And like we might tweak something here or there.
That's kind of what we did. Like, oh, you're going to do ISO? Well, then you can do this or this off ISO. And that's kind of what we rolled with. And then like power read. Now for my linemen, power read and power is the same blocking scheme. Like nothing changes. But to them, it's like, what are you talking about? And then I had to tweak it. Traditional power is gap down backer. Tackle goes to the opposite backer. We had to do it last night. Why don't you go get the first backer instead? And their minds just went, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah. And you wish every kid was like, their own coach, right? And like cared about the X's and O's and like saw like the bigger picture. But for so many of them, it's just like a straight line between like, okay, this is the play, this is my job. And like, they don't know anything else.
Well, like, because when you install, I had to tell them like gap down backer. Well, then we get to a game. Now we got to break it. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you can't just always do gap down backer. What if they do this? What if they do this? Or on ISO, like, we want to have a guy insert for this backer, and my lineman won't touch him. But I'm like, but what if he crosses your face? What if he comes to you? Do you just let him go? And they're like, yeah, that's not my job. I'm like, no, that's not. Like, hit the guy. Like,
we were getting frustrated. It was probably 2 weeks ago now. But like the defensive guys running scout, and at first we didn't plan it, but they were just running whatever they wanted. Like they kind of had a shell, but like they just started like, double A gap blitzing and all this stuff. And we were throwing our hands in the air. We're like, damn it. Like we're trying to get a look. Like we know exactly, like we want to see these plays on film so we can see like how players are doing with it. And they were causing fits. And then we realized we're like, oh, that's probably a good thing, because those are the same issues we have in games. So now we like built in a period. We're like, just throw whatever you want at us, right? Like, I don't even care if it makes sense, if it's sound, like, just do it. And then try to get our kids to have that mental thought of like, oh, who's the most dangerous? Where's the play going? Like, what's our objective? Versus like, I need to block that guy.
Well, we did that this week because we saw an odd man. We saw a 3-4. So we just practiced with a bunch of backers, because they played backers up on the line on the film we got, because they only played one game and we played two. So we had one film. They had their backers up on the line all the time. So I had to like adjust all the blocking scheme. I had to do this. We're not going to block one guy coming off the edge. We have to block up the middle. So we practiced like worst case scenario. They brought the backers up on the line 3 times last night. So it was like they practiced worst case scenario and then they got the easy look, like easy. So you could call that segment like this is worst case scenario of like, what if they blitz everybody? Figure it out. We run this play and they line up like this. Figure it out.
We weren't 100% sure. Like we weren't ready for this look, but Joliet came out last night in a modified 4-4 where their 2 D tackles were out in 3s and their 2 inside linebackers were both, what would you call them? Like 10 techniques, right? Like both shades. So like they had A gap and they were just always A gap pluggers. And we were like, what do we do to this? And of course, our head coach is like, oh, I think I saw Texas State do this against Navy. Like, I think I remember what they did. And we just, ran into the outside on them. But it's those conversations on the headset where you're like, oh God, what are we doing to this adjustment? And you're like, wait a minute, like, this isn't actually that hard.
Yeah. We had, like I said, we had the opposite. So I was ready for it. I was like, knowing how to stop us, you're going to bring those 2 linebackers up to cause fits. What they do, they had them back. And I'm like, thank you. Like, thank you the whole time. They didn't even bring them because they were in that 3-4 and they rolled the safety down. And I told the line when that safety walks down, that backer is going to come because there's no need for him to be out there anymore.
Right.
And they never did. And they're like daring us to run it. And so we would. Now, there was times they got us. We just didn't do it right, but they were daring us to run it. And I was like, thank you. Like, thank the Lord. Because Glenbard West did the 3-3 stack, which caused fits. Willowbrook did a 4-2-5. And then we saw the 3-4. I'm going to see a 3-4 again next week.
We 3-3-5 used to be so much more popular, like right when I started coaching.
It's like boomed lately. Like the 3-3 is just the Upstate 8 conference here where I coach at Glenbard East. We saw it like 3 or 4 times in a row, like this 3-5 or 3-3.
And again, whether you want to say it's 3 high safeties, but those 2 safeties wind up playing down like your spur outside backer. It's like it's a 3-5. Like I don't care what you call it, right? Like I'm sure defensive guys might be screaming, but like to me, right? Like if I'm game planning, it's the same thing.
Yeah, some are like, is it a 3-5? I'm like, it's a 3-3. Well, how do you know it's a 3-3? I was like, well, they're stacked. But what if they move over? It's a 3-5. I'm like, it's the same. It's like when people run 4-2-5s, it looks like a 4-4. But it's not a 4-4 depending on what the safety does or that outside guy. But that's just me being an offensive guy. I'm like, it looks the same to me. But in a 4-2-5, you're going to see more quarters. You're going to see more of this. In a 4-4, they're trying to stop the run. You're going to see cover 3 the whole time. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, it doesn't really matter what it's called. Like I went, when I was a young coach, like you just look back and you're like, I was such an idiot. And I was like, why would you run a 4-2-5? Only 2 backers, like 6 in the box. Like there's no way you can stop the run with that. And then you're like, oh no, you actually just like walk those guys up and like, your safety becomes an outside backer. So it looks like a 4-4.
Well, you don't even have to stop it. It's just lining up. If that guy's even remotely close, the offensive guy, as an offensive guy, you're going to rethink this a second. Like, well, wait a minute. Well, I had Coach McPherson on from YouTube who does the chalk, Coach Mac.
Yeah.
I had him on here. We had a nice conversation about like, how do you define a spread off? We were talking about this, like spread offense. What defines a spread offense? Do they have to be in shotgun? Do they have to do this? So then he goes, but Steve, what about these guys that run the shotgun wing tee? Is that a spread because he's in gun? I'm like, that's a good point. He's like, so like we were just talking about like when people ask like, hey, you're an OC, like what do you run? People say spread. He goes, instead, you should just say, oh, we run gap schemes with a tight end. We have an H-back. That's a better way to describe it. Then you can say, oh yeah, and we line up 5 yards behind the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of, a lot of people will be like, oh, we're like, you know, a 21 personnel team,
Right.
or yeah. I guess I'm more nerdy. I'd be like, do you average more than 3 wide receivers on any given play? Like, I don't know. You can do like shotgun. Because I guess theoretically you could be spread under center. I don't.
Well, bringing that up. I talked to the OC at Saint Xavier University here, the NAIA school. We had this conversation again. He said, I said something about spread, but we have a tight end. He goes, but Steve, hold on a second. And he's knowledgeable. He kicked my ass. He was asking me questions. I just couldn't do it. I'm like, good Lord, you just kicked my ass. Now, if I had a chalkboard or a marker, I might have been able to figure it out. But on here, I was like, wait a minute. He said to him, spread offense is when he's got 2 receivers spread or trips and they're spread. He goes, once you bring a tight end on the line, it's no longer spread anymore, is what in his mind. You're now bringing somebody in tight. Like, and that's how he's been offense coordinator since the school for years. And again, I'm paraphrasing. I have to go back and listen to it, but that's kind of how he was describing it. And so anytime, because we call our tight end on the line of scrimmage pro, we just go like pro right. That's just terminology. He goes, no, to him, that's not spread because you've brought a tight end in on the line of scrimmage. That's no longer spread. Now they have it, but that's not spread. That's the way his mind works. And this guy kicked my ass. His knowledge just threw it out.
Oh, and then you think like NFL, right? Like if you have someone like Gronkowski, you're like, yeah, sometimes he lines up at tight end, but sometimes you split that guy out. Sometimes he's on the line. Sometimes he's off the line. Like sometimes he can go H-back type stuff. Like spread is more of a mentality, I think, than a formation, right? Like you're trying to, we can talk like coaching Twitter and coaching hashtags, but like Michigan, Josh Gaddis has like speed and space. It's like, yeah, you're kind of like that West Coasty, right? Like we're going to try to spread the ball out and make you defend, you know, the 52-yard width of the field kind of thing, both vertically and horizontally. Like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, like, so we had that conversation. So I've started to think about, I'm like, yeah, I need to describe what we do different because we'll bring in a sniffer, we'll bring in a tight end. So I don't even know if we're spread at that point. Like we look to run the ball. We're looking to run the ball RPO, but like we're going to run the ball. So as a run game coordinator, I love it. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. But the only person I think that could sit here and say spread offense and stretch you is Mike Leach. Like air raid guys, you can say spread, and you're like, yeah, air raid spread.
And I probably should be more versed. Like, you know, I've just scratched the surface of air raid stuff, but yeah, when you're throwing to open up the run kind of thing, it's exciting. Just I've never had a quarterback where I'd feel confident doing it.
Well, don't say that to Coach Mackey because he'll be like, oh, you can coach it. Like when you were on the live stream, I guarantee, like if you brought that up, he would have.
Yeah, but you can't coach like 6'5". You can't coach laser rocket arm. Or even decision. Well, maybe decision making. You can probably add more coaching. You can coach decision making. You can't always trust it.
You can coach decision making. You can coach depth of the routes. So, like if they run stick and it's really like a 5 or 6 yard, maybe you need to make it a 3. Maybe it's more of a stutter and just throw it to him. Like you can do that, but then it's like it's even air raid anymore.
I mean, everyone's so worried about like what lane they're in. It's like, just run what works, right? The point is to win the game. Like, it doesn't matter if you line up, well, I guess you can't line up 11 guys in an eye, but you know, when Michigan would do their, you know, 3-man eyes or 4-man eyes, and you're just like, okay, like if that's how you get yards, like you can do it.
That's what we did last night. We brought in a tie. People be so proud of me because people know me as an air raid guy, but I'm not calling the plays, but I love it. We have a tight end and a sniffer and a running back leading up for a quarterback. People are just like, it looks beautiful.
I mean, half of our fun is like, we just like to formation people. We're like, okay, we know, right? Like if we do X, they're going to do Y. Like if we can guarantee the strength to a side, then we know what side we can call our plays that we want to, you know, if it's just that cat and mouse game of like, if we do X, they're going to do Y. And then as long as they keep doing that, like we're pretty happy.
Right. Uh, that's what we tried to do last night, but I had my third offensive line. I realized that last night. Like, this is my third offensive lineman start in week 3. And I took a deep breath and I was like, this is for next year too. Like, you're getting your seniors what they need. And in the back of your mind, like, but this is also for August already.
Yeah, we're starting 2 sophomores on the offensive line. You're like, not ideal.
No, I think I have all juniors. I think they all started last year, and I've got these juniors.
We'll lose one senior.
We didn't have weight room time. We didn't have, so we're playing catch up. Like,
yeah, I'm hoping, at 03, you're like, all right, like we're shooting for 500 on a season that doesn't ultimately matter.
Yeah. I think I saw you guys playing IC, and I'm like, ooh, that's going to be rough. But they lost to
St. Francis.
Yeah. Which they shouldn't have lost to them, but.
Which, it's so funny when you watch the tape and you're like, well, like, IC came out like a, tight front 3-3-5, like 3 high safety look. And it's like, well, that's not what they're going to do against us. So we had to like get old film on what they do against like other flexbone teams. And we're like, okay, we think we're going to see this. And we're like, oh yeah, that guy's probably like a D1 kid. And like, how do you scheme against that? And for us, the nice thing is like, oh, you have a really like punishing running back or a great offense. It's like, all right, like we need 10, 12, 15 play drives. We're just not going to give you the ball. And that it almost worked for us last night with JCA too.
Because when I lived in Elmhurst, I'd go watch them in the playoffs. I see, because it was 10 minutes away in Elmhurst where I lived. So I'd go watch them. And when you first see, like, oh, there's not that many people, and then you see the whole team, you're like, oh, they have a lot of kids. And they're good. And they have a coach they almost have a coach for each kid.
They have
like a
blurred
coach
out for a second.
They have like a coach or two for each position.
Gotcha.
Like at one point when I went and watched them 2 years, it would have been 2019. Yeah. They have like an inside backers coach, outside backers coach. They had a guy watching just guards and then a guy watching just tackles. And I almost hate that. I have like 2 guys with me doing O-line with me, but I'm the guy. And sometimes I'm like, well, I'll watch this side, you watch this side. And I try that, but I can't do it. I'm like, I have to watch all 5. I have to watch everything.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things when I got into coaching is like, you can try to watch everything, right? And sometimes you just wind up like someone's like, oh, what happened that play? You're like, I have no idea. Like I watched it and I haven't processed or analyzed, or like I couldn't see like, right, what happened with the read, right? Did he come down or come forward? No idea, right? Like someone may have just walked in the way. So I coach in the box on Friday nights. So, well, Thursday night, last night. But then it's fun like on the headset where it's like, okay, hey, on this play, watch the middle backer, see if he's plugging, right? Like, and that's how I can be eyes up there, which is different.
Yeah, I'm on the sideline. The OC's in the box. Then I'm on the side. Then we have a guy signaling it in. But it's weird. I look like the guy that doesn't care about the team because I have to stand behind the offensive. So on the sideline, I'm all the way down here because I have to watch it from this way. I can't watch it the other way. So on film, like on YouTube, someone's like, what? I think it was my parents. Why are you standing so far away? And I'm like, I have to see the box. I can't see it when I'm on the side.
It's like, I have to see it. And generally I want to be away from other people.
Well, then I can walk onto the field and yell, and no ref will see me because I'm behind them.
Oh yeah. We've had a few sideline warnings and I think 1 flag this year.
Well, then I'm not used to walking deck because we can go 10 to 10 now. So I'm not used to it. Like, I feel like when I'm standing by the 10, I'm breaking the rule. I'm like looking, I'm like, and the refs always tell us like, oh yeah, we want to throw flags all the time and we can't because you can be down there. Like they feel like they have to, but they're like, you can be down there.
Most of the refs that we've had recently, like it really just feels like they want to like get in and get out as fast as possible.
That's how it felt last night.
Well, it was like 35 degrees. I wanted to be in and out as well, but
Well, what time did you guys start? Did you start at the normal
7:30.
7:30? We started at 6. So it was warm at first, and then as it went on, because we all said, like, do you guys just want to start at 6? Because usually we have like a sophomore game first, then varsity, but we don't have a sophomore team. We combine the sophomores and juniors. So we're like, we don't have this game. Do you just want to start at 6? They're like, yeah, absolutely. And the coach is like, we can go out earlier at 8:30 instead of 11.
Yeah. I wish that was an option for us, but we had our freshmen play before us. So.
Oh, no, we have our freshmen playing tomorrow and then the JV on Monday.
Yeah, there's been a few, like we're like very underclassmen heavy. So like we've got a lot of sophomores that are like, at the end of the varsity bench, and you're like, in a perfect world, you'd be on like a JV team or a sophomore team and like getting reps, getting time. So I think we're trying to see if we can pick up like a sophomore game somewhere, but then it's like, well, who coaches that? Like these guys have never actually played as like 11 guys on a unit before. So we'll see.
Yeah, because I think at the beginning of the year, he kind of wanted to have a varsity team, JV team, sophomore team, freshman team, which would have been awesome.
4 levels is ambitious.
Well, like York, which is in Elmhurst, they have a freshman A, freshman B, sophomore team, JV team, varsity. They have like 170 kids out.
Yeah, I know. I mean, New Trier's kind of like that way.
Yeah, because that's who they'll play New Trier. They're like that.
But like there's only so many teams that can do that. So either your like B and C kids are playing someone else's A kids, or like you're not getting enough games, or you're playing like the same team multiple times. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just.
But then you're right. Who coaches that? Who, like, do you have that many coaches? Because we talked about if we had a JV team and a sophomore team, like the head coach, the varsity coach, and the OC wouldn't coach the JV game. The rest of us varsity guys would coach the JV game because they'd be practicing with the varsity, so we kind of know already. Then the sophomores would coach theirs and whatever. Well, now that we have a varsity team, we combine the sophomores with the JV and a freshman. The sophomore coaches coach those JV games. So now, like, because I was going to call the offense for JV and then be O-line. Now I don't have to worry about it, which is good. I watch the JV versus other teams' JV. I'm like, oh, we don't have a true JV. They have a true JV team.
Yeah. Most places I've coached, the JV has just been like sophomore. Like that's just what you do after freshman because you're not ready for varsity yet. But we don't have enough kids even on our varsity. So if we were going to do a JV or a sophomore game on a Monday, it's like, that's half our team. Mm-hmm. Like, are we even going to, like, we wouldn't even be able to like put out a scout look, right? Like
that's where we are right now. Like on Mondays, we can't do anything really. We can kind of walk through stuff with if you didn't start the varsity game, you play JV. So it's like, but we have kids going both ways. So on Mondays, we can watch film with the JV before they leave and do all that. But then when we go out there and walk through things with the varsity, it's like we can't do too much. Like we can't do a lot. But we want these kids to play. We want them to get to play and stay. So we have to pick our poison.
Yeah, that's where we're at. And it's like, even if it's like a game or two, I mean, I guess at this point it might just be like one, but like leading into the summer and then fall. Well, I just keep trying to tell myself that like everyone else is kind of going through the same thing too.
Yep. That's what we're saying. We're like, we're not alone in this. Like every school, unless you're Lincoln Way West or east of the world, or Lincoln Way East of the world, you're going through it.
Yeah. How do your last 3 games look?
This is my first year in this conference, so I'm trying to figure out these teams. From what I'm told, we can compete. We got through our first 2 games were the toughest games we were going to have. I'm not saying these teams aren't tough, but like we can compete with the rest of them.
I know what you're saying. And you also don't want to say like they're lollipops, in case anyone listens.
Right. Well, if we would have won yesterday, I might have said that like, oh yeah, we're fine. But like, we're just telling ourselves, as long as you get better from week 1 to now, it's all that matters. So week 1, like Lombard West just came in and was just pound. Week 2, we took a huge step back. And then yesterday we took a huge step forward again. So now if we can keep going forward, we'll be okay.
God, I hope it's the same for us. We have 2 winnable games, our next 2, and then we finish up against like our. I hesitate to call them our biggest rival, one of our biggest rivals. So that game's always like a toss up on.
Oh yeah, just throw it out the window. Like,
yeah.
Do you guys get the full 6 game, or are you just doing?
We have full 6.
Okay.
I mean, assuming no one drops, right? Like COVID related, it sounds like people are already like scrambling to try to fill games.
Because there's schools in Central Illinois that did 5 games, and then that 6th game was supposed to be like, go find somebody else outside your conference
like a bowl game, kind of.
Yeah. We just said all conference games. Like we're just like, screw it.
Well, I think we still have to abide by Chicago, so I think we're not allowed to play teams from like too far away.
Oh yeah. I keep forgetting you're in the public school era, but you're private.
Right, but just I mean Chicago in general, just our phases and our I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but just all the COVID restrictions,
the tiers, the phases, which was confusing. I said, like, if you're in tier 2, look at phase like 1. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and no one ever actually knew what it meant. Just I think we were waiting for the email from the athletic department of like, okay, what does this actually mean?
But then like each school district was different. So like just because I coached in Addison to page 88, so whatever they were doing was different than 204. So like Geekwa and all of them were doing stuff, but we weren't. So it just depended on where you were. So I was getting confused. Like, well, we're doing stuff in Naperville, but in Addison they're not doing this.
Yeah, and I think it's especially hard for kids like on social media. They're like, wait, why does the high school next door get to like practice and start playing and like we don't?
That was another tough one. Like for them was, well, York's doing this or whoever. Well, they're in a different school district.
Yeah, when we get into Catholic schools and they're like this team's supposed to be shut down, but they're the parents are throwing enough of a stink that that may not actually be the case. Maybe they were supposed to have a 2-game shutdown, but didn't wind up having a 2-game shutdown.
Well, then they realized the 6-foot thing was only for 12 minutes instead of. That's probably what happened. Like,
yeah. So I mean, it's not super fair. Again, teaches these kids that a lot of things in life are not fair, but it just sucks when it hurts your kids.
A lot of kids around here, I think they had come to the conclusion we weren't going to play when it was like January. Like they're like, we're not going to play, which Illinois did no favors of like, hey, start tomorrow. What? But I told the kids in October we were going to play. There was no way to justify it because we're exactly in the same spot now as we were in October or September. But what do I know?
Which is like way worse than it was when everything shut down in March initially. So, I would probably feel different if I had a bunch of kids that were like trying to maybe sniff like D1 offers or like, they needed that senior year, like highlight film to maybe like solidify an offer or get a better offer. But like, that's not where I'm at. So nice.
Yeah. Some schools were like, we have a D1 lineman or this, they need the film. I'm like, yeah, you do. We had kids go to Indiana.
Yeah. We have one kid who's committed to Johns Hopkins who, like, if we would have played in the fall, like he was looking at maybe getting like an Ivy League offer. He's the only kid where it's like, that's, but I think where he wound up is good. But like, again, that's one of those things you look back and you're like, well, it could have happened differently.
And then are we going to get the equipment back in time for August? That was the next question we had.
Oh, like helmet reconditioning? Yeah.
We were told, oh yeah, you'll have it by July or June or July. And we're like, sure.
That is one thing, you know, people will ask me, even like my friends will ask me, they're like, don't you want to be like a head coach? And I was like, sort of. But like, there's a lot of things as an assistant coach, like I don't really have to care about. Mm-hmm. So something like helmet reconditioning, I was like, they just appear, right? Like I have no business. That is someone else's problem. Like I deal with enough stuff. Someone else can handle that.
Yeah, you show up and, oh, here's the shoulder pads. Here's the helmets. I don't care.
Yep, they are clean, they are sanitized, they're reconditioned. You know, someone else measures the kids and checks them, and right, like they have shoulder pads that fit by the time they get to me, hopefully.
Yeah, I want to be a head coach, and I was like, I'm kind of glad it didn't pan out when COVID hit. I was like, I'm so glad.
Yeah, it just amplified everything of like communication with the administration and how supportive the administration was and like what policies they were following and where you were located. Just everything that head coaches already do, it just made it worse.
Like the coach here now, he's been an assistant for a long time. I think since 2012 or 13. He became the head coach. So all summer, I was like, aren't you glad you got this job? He got it in February of 2020. So we heard of COVID, but we didn't know what it was. I won't repeat what he said every time I ask him, like, aren't you glad you got this job? I won't repeat what he says, but he's aged quickly.
Yeah. Even, right, if you look at like the college or NFL level, like trying to like change a program, build a program, right? Like change the culture, like that's hard to do on Zoom.
That's exactly where we're at. Like, and I'm trying to help. I'm in part of 2 rebuilding programs the past years. So I'm trying to help. And I'm like, hey, this is tough. And we're going to take our lumps. We already knew, like, we're going to take lumps this year. But our competitive side won't allow us to take those. Like, we can say it all we want. And then we lose last night. We're 0-3. We're like, wait a minute. The competitive side of us is like, this sucks.
And you're like, you know, you weren't blown out, right? So you're like, we were in it.
Right.
Enough. Yeah, I know that feeling. And it's, God, just being a head coach in general. Now, like, as I'm getting, you know, just like between day job and like wife and family and like maybe buying a house, and you're like, I don't want to have to deal with like off-season conditioning. And like, you know, I see our head coaches who's at the school like all the time. Well, like, you know, with COVID, it's like work from home. It's like he works from the school. Like,
right.
I don't know if I can do it. At least not where I am today. Or I wouldn't be able to do it as well as I would want to.
Right. You would take it and be like, wait, I want to do this much time. I'm only going to be able to do this much.
Right. Or like how much time you should be spending versus
you might go more too. You might like, I should do this. And you're like, you do an extra 10 hours. I would probably do that. I want to be a head coach, but I'm like, this year, I'm kind of glad that I'm just the O-line coach. I'm glad I'm just the run game coordinator. That's all I have to worry about. The run game comes through me, and I'm like, that's all I have to do.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with parents.
Yeah,
we've pretty. I won't even say pretty good. We have good parents, like that. At least I don't hear a whole lot, and like, you know, we there's always a few, right? But like, you kind of know who they are, and like they're managed. But the actual. It just, even now with like everything's live streamed, right? Like we have journalists at our games that like, you know, they pull 2 guys at the end of a game, and like we don't do like media training with our kids, right? Like,
yeah.
I just hope our kids don't say something dumb.
Yeah. We had a reporter talk to the kid last night. I was like, oh, they can come up to the kids now? But
well, yeah. At one point, I think they had like, they mic'd the kid up, and like they had the camera set up sort of like at the intermediate level of the press box. So like they were doing the interview like socially distanced down, but like the kid was mic'd. Sort of like when you see any of like the NFL games when the person's like in the bleachers kind of thing.
Right.
It's one more thing as like, as a high school kid, like, do you need to talk to I'll just get in trouble, right? Like fake journalist, right? Like someone who's just some bullshit podcast host, right? Like,
yeah, you don't want to talk to me.
no, totally different.
Yeah, you don't want to talk to me. I took Joe Rogan's colors for the logo. Like, I'm just stealing. I made it in a minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah. I'm sure we pay them a fair amount of money to like stream the games.
On YouTube?
Yeah. At least our home games. Like JCA had theirs streamed last night. But it's like,
we don't pay money. We stream it too. I hope they don't. I don't think it costs that much.
Right, like you could just set up a camera and do it, but this is literally like there's a production crew, like there's like bottom lines, like there's like commentators, right? And it's like they haven't, we run Flexbone like option, and they're like, oh, it's a flea flicker, and it's like, no, it's not. Like you could at least like do a little research.
It's the oop-de-oop. The oop-de-oop.
Yeah, I mean it's like watching a college crew do like an option team, and they're like. Yeah, not everything is an option, and not everything is
dive, and not everything is an option.
Right. But like you should probably be able to talk about it like at some level.
At Nequa for basketball, they have a media classes at the school. So that teacher, the media department would do it. So the kids would come do the commentary.
Like that I'm totally cool with, right? Like it's like your school, you're doing it, right? It's like kind of like morning announcement-y, right? Like
yeah, those are the kids that do it.
That I think is super cool, but that's not what we have.
Yeah, some don't do that, but like Nequa did it, and I said this is great because they can use that on the resume when they go to college. Like we commentaried every basketball game and football game.
Right. And like it would be on YouTube. Like you could have a highlight tape of like, here's my commentating, right? Like,
well, that's what I told them at the school I coach football. I'm like, is there a media department here? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, they should make one because you could have them do basketball games, football games, baseball games. You're by the city of Chicago. They could go into that sports like radio stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like ESPN. You've got everyone you could ever want here.
You
like
have
every
Barstool.
Sport.
You have Barstool in the city. Like, come on now. Speaking of, I wanted to find Dave Portnoy when he was here. I was like, he's in the city. I want to go find him.
We have trouble finding like good managers, just to, like help out, right? Like just when you're like a good coach and you're like, I only have two hands. I can only set up so many things at once. And like, I can't do water. Like I can't do the huddle sideline, like tap it while trying to talk. And like, we had someone approach us to do stats. And so there's been a student that's been up in the box with us doing stats. And I was like, this is a dream because you actually like know football and are good at it and like can use huddle without a lot of help.
So you do like the huddle stats where just for automatic. Yeah. We wanted to do that, but our huddle sideline's not working.
So even if huddle sideline's not working, right, you can still take that like tag data. And then if you have, if you have other film that you have from not like the huddle sideline stream, like you can intercut that. It just takes a little bit more effort, but otherwise, right, like we're spending hours doing that on like a Saturday or a Sunday. And you're just like, I don't want to.
Well, we do the huddle assist, so we just
okay.
But it's funny, like the huddle sideline wasn't working, and then we're like, how much money do we pay huddle for this not to work? And so he looked back at all the bills, and he's like, Steve, look at what we paid for huddle in like 2011. It was like $800.
Yeah.
Now it's like $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah. At one point, they might still sort of be my dream company to work for, just because like technology and sports, like I can do that. But it never goes well. It never goes 100%, and something always dies. Well, and with it being in the spring, right? You're like, oh, these iPads aren't supposed to be sitting on a cold metal bench in 30-degree weather.
Yeah, and maybe that's why our end zone camera doesn't work. We have freshman coaches and some sophomore coaches do the stuff. When we see the guy in the end zone walking to us on the sideline, we're like, oh, that's not good. That means the camera's not working. or something's not going right.
Yeah, and like in the box, right? Like I'm sitting next to the person who's doing it, and it's like, oh, end zone camera just went down. It's like, uh-oh.
But we're not the only ones. Like last night, it was our first away game, and it was near where I live, kind of. So I was like, I'm just going to drive and meet you guys there. So I have to drive to the school and then whatever.
Yeah.
Get there. The homeschool's setting theirs up, and they come up to us and they're like, "Do you guys have the same problems we are?" And we're like, "Well, let's talk. What problems do you guys have?" He goes, "Does your end zone camera just not work?" And then how sideline messes up. I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "We have the same problem."
I would love, like, if some coach came up and was like, huddle works for us every week perfectly. I'd be like, prove it. Like, I don't believe it because there's no way all that technology works.
It did it when I was at Lombard East. It did.
I don't like.
But we had guys set it up for us. We walked onto the field and it was set up for us.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm in tech, right? Like, I do this. I've done it, and now that I'm coaching, right? Like, I've been coaching like 8 years. It's like I've always had to do huddle stuff. It's like I know how to set it up. Like I know how it works, but it never works perfectly every week.
But if it doesn't work, don't ask me to fix it because I don't know what's going on.
Oh, it's straight the IT. Like, have you tried turning it off and back on again? Right. And you have to do that at every box. You have to do every cable. You've got to do like the actual app. Like, okay, once you've gone through and tried that, like try it again. And then if that doesn't work, then you're like Googling like the huddle support page, right? Or like tweeting them angrily, which I've totally done.
Well, which would you rather do? Have it not work at the beginning or work halfway and then it stop? I'd rather have it not work at the beginning because you're used to it while it's going on. And then when it stops and the game's going on, you're like,
And then you just know, but like that, like I'm setting it up, right? So if it's not working, like before a game, like my blood pressure is spiking. And like yesterday we left one of the cases on the bus. So I'm running around this college stadium trying to find our other huddle case, hoping someone didn't like leave it outside the locker room and someone walked off with it. Or like worst case scenario would be like, we left it at school, which, you know, you're like, I'm 99.9% sure like it was in our pile to go on the bus and it wasn't there when I left. But like one of our coaches was like, I'm just going to go check the bus. And like, that's where it was. But for 40 minutes, like I'm sitting there, like running around trying to find this thing.
For that minute, you're like, I'm fired. Like this is.
My head coach is very understanding and he knows it's like, he's also kind of in tech and he's like, I understand it never works all the time. But it's that thing of like, I'm going to have to hear someone complain about this, like every drive or like, just never catch a break when you're the tech guy on a staff.
Yeah, I felt bad because I'm not going to set it up. I straight up told the guys I'm not doing it, and I'm not trying. I told the coach I'm not trying to be nice. I'll help you carry it. I'll help unload it. But when you start plugging shit in, I'm there for support. Because if it goes wrong, I don't want to be blamed. Now we have like 4 guys on it, so I feel kind of bad. There are times where I go, I wish we had Hell sideline, but I'm like, oh, they're going to feel bad.
There's like again, it's for football coaches, like they know their market. So the instructions are written in like size 40 font, like on the inside of the case. And you're like, you know, they have diagrams. They're like, all right, like arrow pointing here, like turn this switch on. You're like, all right. But so if you can actually follow the instructions and set it up and it works, like you're golden. It's the minute anything doesn't work that you're like, shit. Like,
right. Because then you're looking for the instruction of like, oh, there's no troubleshoot besides the little box. You have to turn that off. You have to read the side, and if it'll tell you if it's not connected. And
then you have the stupid stuff where you're like, everything is supposed to be working. Why is this not working? You're like, oh, because I forgot to plug it in. You're like, all right, I'm an idiot. And that's even before you're like, oh, I need to find an extension cord, or like at home, I know where all the outlets are. But like if we're on the road and you're like, wait, we need power. Like, how do we do this?
I'm just waiting for it to be Bluetooth. Why is it not Bluetooth yet?
I don't know. They might be working on it. I don't know what the range of that Bluetooth would be.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, don't even get me started when it comes to like headsets. Like, 'cause there's the other piece of technology that drives me insane. But something always goes wrong.
Or just use drones. That's what we said.
We have one, but then you need someone who is dedicated enough to know how to use it, who can troubleshoot it. Like, I don't think the batteries last very long. And if you're close to Chicago, I think you need some sort of permit. And God knows I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, because Glenbard East, we used a drone for practice. You just can't use it for a game. But then, like at Addison, they said we're too close to O'Hare Airport for you to use it. And I'm like, what? That makes no sense. That's the view I get. We're surrounded by trees, and you can see the airplanes leaving and going.
Yeah, I'm close enough to O'Hare where I live that like I'm in a flight path. So like from my back window, I can see planes coming in usually.
But yeah, O'Hare's huge though, so I don't know. I've been there twice. It's close to Elmhurst. From Elmhurst, there's like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think that might just be like a Chicago thing too, between the city and the two airports. Just like, they've got like some drone regulations.
Someone said you need almost like a pilot license type thing for it too. And I'm like, what?
I think there is something weird like that. And I'm sure there's some line between like commercial and or like, personal and commercial use, but I've never had drone footage. I'm sure it could be helpful.
We did at Glenbard East, and I was like, I can never go back to an end zone camera or something. You get right behind, above in the air. It's beautiful.
That'll be the next huddle innovation is you don't even need the sideline camera. They just have the drone that already links into sideline.
Well, that's what it was. You put your phone on it. Your phone is connected to it. And so that's how you film. And so you just go straight to huddle. So you're logged into huddle and it's filming it. It's connected to the controller.
Yeah, sorry. I'm thinking for like game day, right? Instead of having your end zone camera, like if that was on your huddle sideline, so on your iPad, you could get up the drone footage.
Oh, people won't want that though. They're like, you get the end zone view from a drone during the game.
Everyone's looking for that competitive advantage, but I'm sure someone's working on that somewhere.
Well, like when I was at Charleston, the team we played, coaches sat in the end zone on the big screen for their end zone camera. So they had their headsets on talking to the coaches, but they sat there and watched that. And we asked the refs, we're like, that's not legal. That you can't do that. And the refs let it go. But this was 2015 or 16.
And those are like the rules that they change kind of like not yearly. It's almost like special teams. Like you're like, all right. Like
the Coach Steve Show is sponsored by the Launchpad Kickoff Tee. If you're a football coach out there, high school, college, NFL, doesn't matter, and you're looking for that edge for your special teams, for your kicker, for the kickoff, onsides, you guys need to go to launchpadkickoff.com. If you have a younger guy trying to develop the kicker, you want the ball to get to the end zone, you need to go to Launchpad Kickoff Tee. This tee gives a coach strategic options for squib kicks, onsides, everything. It is proven that your kicker will kick off farther. It is legal for NCAA, for high school, okay? The Launchpad Kickoff Tee is a game changer. So if you go to launchpadkickoff.com/CSS to use the code CSS, you can get a Launchpad Kickoff Tee for 10% off. So go to launchpadkickoff.com/CSS. You can use the code CSS for the Coach Steve Show to get 10% off. Also, there's a bundle. You can get one for 10% off. You can go to two and get more % off. Or there's an option to buy four. If you click the option to buy the 4 kickoff tees, if you like it so much, when you use the code CSS, you'll get the 4th one free. So instead of paying full price for all 4, you'll get 3. So go to launchpadkickoff.com/CSS, use the code CSS, get 10% off, buy 4 to get the 4th one free. This is a game changer, guys. It does more than just hold your balls. Go get the Launchpad Kickoff Tee today to give your kicker an edge.
You're like, all right, season. Like you make little adjustments based on like what's now deemed okay. And I think usually the idea is like, as long as both teams have the opportunity to do it, like that should probably be okay.
Yeah, because we were like, that's not legal, right? Because huddle sideline only gives you the side view, you don't get the end zone. But they're down there looking at the end zone, communicating to the play callers. We're like, that can't be right. Because even before Huddle Sideline came out, or before, at least before the school got it, we had kids in the stands with iPads because there was no rule against running the iPads down to us.
Yeah.
So before Huddle Sideline was like a thing.
Yeah.
So we just had kids in the stands with iPads so they'd film defense.
And then come run down at the end of the drive.
And somebody else is already up there with a different iPad filming the next one.
That's brilliant.
The head coach, what was this, 2014 or 15, I think? I think it was 2014.
Right around when I started.
That was the head coach called and asked them, like, is this legal? Can I do this? They're like, there's no rule against it, so that's what we did. Now, to give you any advantage? Not really, because by the time you got it. But
I mean, to have it there in like 3 seconds, and it's like, hey, where was the D tackle that last play? And you're like, let me look it up. And they're like, which way did he slant? Like,
yeah. I think our kids knew we didn't have Huddle Sideline because we had it last week. So any kids that tried to pull any bullshit of like, this guy came up the A gap, where were you? He did. I'm like, well, hold on. He did come up the A gap or something. Last night, they knew we didn't have it. So I knew they were bullshitting. So I didn't even give them a chance. Like, if they tried it, I'm like, no, shut up. Like, keep your mouth shut. I know what happened.
Yeah, I mean, just the innovation from Huddle Sideline and being able to have instant replay at like the high school level is kind of ridiculous to think about, especially like
college doesn't have it.
Yeah. Well, like back when I played high school football, like our coaches exchanged VHS tapes in like shady back alleys, and like you had to deal with the guy like trying to rewind a VCR to the right spot.
Mm-hmm. That was my job. Drive this tape to this coach halfway and exchange VHS tapes. And then it was DVDs. Then it was like, go exchange this DVD.
Yeah. And I try to tell my kids, I'm like, I'm not that much older than you. Like, older, but not that much. Like, you guys don't realize quite how well you have it. That like you can sit and waste time in class watching film.
Or like when we upload the film, you can go on your phone and watch it right then and there. Or like we can do that on the bus or wherever. Yeah, I remember when it was DVDs, you had those big cameras, they film it, put on the computer, and then you have to put it on DVD.
Yeah.
Then you exchange that. And then it got to Huddle. I remember when Huddle was a thing. I was like, what is this? And the coaches down there were like, oh, no, this is Huddle. This is what we do. And I'm like, what? How do you exchange film? Oh, you just send it to them.
Yeah, you press this button. And then don't accidentally send them all like the notes and the, down in distance. Like make them do that themselves.
Then the end zone camera stuff. I'm like, what? What is this?
Yeah, and when I started, we had the end zone camera. Did we have sideline when I started? I don't think we had sideline when I started, but it was like we had the end zone camera that we could watch after the game, but we didn't have it during the game.
And you had to make sure you didn't trade that film with the other team too. So if you intercutted it to ahead of time, if you got ahead of yourself, now a team's already done that to us already. Like we've gotten end zone view already. And I'm just like, whoops, your fault.
I mean, Huddle makes it easy, right? They're like, all right, this is intercut. Do you want to send the wide, the tight, or both? Like, it tried to help you from making that mistake.
Well, I just think you upload it too quick and you're just like, send it. You just click on send it. Like, that's not my job either. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
There was like, pre-Huddle Sideline when like things took forever. Like the league rule was like you had to have film exchange by like 9 a.m. Saturday. Yeah. And so it'd be like 8:30, right? And people are like, well, where's the film? And it's like, well, it's not uploaded, so we can't trade anything like until that gets done.
And that's always the best when you don't get the film until Saturday morning and the kids come in, you're like, well, we just got it.
Yeah. Luckily, a lot of like what we do, like we'll watch, either the highlights or like we'll go through the game from the night before as dogs go nuts.
They're crazy.
Sometimes, well, yeah, it's about time for them to go out. Well, sometimes if we have extra time, we'll put on like scout film just to like give guys a chance to see it. Otherwise, we'll just, share it out.
They agree.
They do.
Or like now it's on YouTube.
Also true, which the whole streaming thing, right? Like with the whatever company rinky dink operation we have going on, which hopefully they don't listen, but, whatever. But theoretically, like you only trade, 2 weeks worth of film. Like when you get into a full season, like, do they know to hide it? Like, are they going to hide it? Like, could someone just have all your film on YouTube?
Oh, it's still there. Like I could go find, who do we play? We play Leiden. I can go find it on YouTube. Now, but not everybody does YouTube either.
True.
Some are doing that in FHS stuff.
Yeah.
We have to pay, but the parents are throwing a fit over that. Why do I have to pay $60 to watch my kids' games?
Well, especially like during COVID, right?
During
like
COVID.
You're not allowing me to go like physically be there. And God knows if you're like immunocompromised or whatever, you're like, hey, maybe I don't want to be in public.
And then I had to pay the athletic fee to have my kid play. Now I can't watch.
Yeah. I could imagine parents being very upset about that.
Like that happened for Niqua. They didn't stream the sophomore games, but just the varsity games, like the department.
Ooh.
So sophomore parents were, well, it was supposed to be through that network, but the camera wouldn't work at home. It was broken. That's not a school thing. That's huddle stuff. They got to fix it. So then the parents, we kind of told the kids, like, how you fix that? You send emails. So a parent got approval to come in and Zoom the game. The parents log on to Zoom to watch it.
Yeah. I get like if someone wants to take ownership of that and be like, hey, like I have a solution. Like as long as the school doesn't say no, I think that's probably a different issue. I'm hoping this whole pandemic thing, as far as like football technology, like pushes it probably light years beyond, or like moves things faster than they would have before. That like, who knows how long it is before we're like VRing to watch high school football games.
Well, now that they have YouTube, they're like, I'm just going to do this. But then I could see schools, once we start opening more, the schools will be like, okay, now you have to pay to watch it. Like in a year. Like I could see that happening.
Maybe. I guess so. Like if you're going through like a service like the NFHS or whatever it is, right? Like if you're paying someone to stream it and you're like, oh, we're just trying to like recoup the money we spent to stream. Like, I guess I get that. And maybe you could do that. Like if it's like, I think YouTube now has like memberships or whatever. And they're like, hey, like $5 gets you like the season, right? Or like whatever it is. And it's like,
that's their ticket sale. Like, oh, a ticket's $3, pay $3 to watch this.
Because I like that while we started talking, I think before we started recording, like that huddle focused camera that's like, permanently mounted at your 50-yard line with multiple cameras that is set up to stream. Like theoretically, I think you're able to just hook that up to YouTube and be like, now we're streaming. Here's the game. So it doesn't actually cost you anything else. Well, other than the absorbent huddle fees.
Now that you've said that, I think a school we played at had that. It was Burlington Central. I think they had that because on YouTube, there was nobody there filming YouTube. And I was like, what's going on? But it was on YouTube, so that camera was doing it.
It's like a C-SPAN of football, which I've done very basic research after I was told very kindly that I was not going to be involved. But like, I think one of the cameras can like look at the scoreboard and you can actually like, like OBS style, like superimpose the scoreboard over the stream. And you're like, that's really smart. Like,
that's what they used for basketball. That's exactly how it was for their basketball school. There was nobody there with their camera. It was up there. Now that you brought that up.
I know they have the indoor one. I think the indoor one came out first. I think they had to figure out how to do like a full size field and have a camera that can like be permanently mounted outdoors.
Yeah. Now that you brought that up and it's coming back to me, I'm like, yeah, that's how it worked.
And I like stuff like that should be available, right? Like if you're an alum, right? Or you like just graduated, you're like, well, I want to check in on how my like team's doing, right? Like that, it shouldn't be that difficult.
And then it shouldn't be now because of COVID. How many parents are going to say we need to watch this, or grandparents?
Yeah, we're very fortunate that our athletic department has done fairly well in that department. Not perfect, but like, our games are streamed, right? Like, I don't know. I guess For as many things as I complain about, that's not one of them.
Yeah, we're complaining about some things, but like we're playing, so we're just going to go with it.
That's definitely the biggest thing. Even with the kids, you're like, shut up, we're playing, right? Like, it could be way worse. You could be sitting at home still.
Well, like we're complaining about the end zone camera, and then like when the game's over, I'm like, it's okay, it's fine. It's frustrating because you think it works and it's not, but that's like, we're playing. If it's not working in August, that'd be a different story.
Yeah, but it's like, all right, maybe we missed an adjustment or something, right? Like maybe we could have noticed something faster, but like at the end of the day, like we're still playing.
We said that last night at halftime. Like it'd be nice if we had huddle sideline because we could see what's going on. But then me and the OC were just like, we just got to go. We just got to roll with it.
Okay, do it like we used to do in the old days. Like you ask your offensive line where they're lined up, right? Like how often was he to your left versus to your right? Like,
yeah, then it sucks when half can tell you and the other half can't. You're like, well, or old school, you have to get the notebook out and like draw it up as they're lined up, or tell another coach to do that.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that would be like your iPad thing, like running them up and down, like the books they show like at NFL games. Like someone needs to be up there to actually get a view to see where they are. The number of times on the headset where they're like, he's in a 1. It's like, no, he's in a 3. Like, and I have the view of it.
Yeah.
And I can prove it.
Yeah, game 1 when the huddle sideline didn't work, I was like, well, we got to go back to old days of I have to draw it up.
I mean, that's even like I never had to do that, but I could imagine that that's how it had to be done.
Yeah, that was my job when I was assistant DC. I was in the box. I had to draw it up. I had the printed out sheets with the line already there and I had to draw it up. Then we got huddle sideline. Didn't have to worry about it no more. But when I was at East Aurora in 2019, we didn't have huddle sideline, so I learned again how to coach. But then it's been a long time now. It's been a year and a half. Go to a school. I'm like, oh, we'll have huddle sideline. We set up. Oh, sorry, it don't work.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I forget if those boxes need to be like reconditioned like helmets do every so often. It's like I feel like ours are probably due for that.
That was my question. Like, do you have to get new of those boxes? But then I said Huddle's really good about it. If you call them about it, they'll send it to you right then and there.
Yeah.
Then we're like, they better for $4,000. They better send a new one.
Yep. Like I'm surprised because very few people say like good things about Huddle. Like it's not like a cool thing to say good things, but like the technology's done really good things. It just like doesn't usually work when you need it to.
It was all the rave until like 2015. Then it was like, oh, here's new things coming out. And then it was like, oh, Huddle's, whatever.
Yeah, have you ever used any like their competitors? I know there's like, there's Skyhawk or something. Like every conference you go to, they try to like corner you and ask you if you're unhappy with Huddle.
I've never used another one. What's the one? Game Strat? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
that's becoming big all of a sudden. No, I've never used it.
I haven't either.
Other thing. I'm afraid to. I'm like, I know Huddle too well. Like, I don't want to.
And for as much as we bitch about it, like it does do what it's supposed to, right? And then you're not worrying like, oh, one team has Huddle, one team has a different one. Like, how are you exchanging film kind of thing, right? Like, if everyone's doing the same thing, that is still monumentally better than everyone on different things.
Yeah. I'm like, it does what it needs to do. I know how to use it. There's hiccups along the way, but they replace it. So
yeah,
it's all right.
I might like take that note down for myself. I might just call and find out because our boxes are looking a little raggedy.
We asked that. We were like, do these need to be redone? Do we need a new battery or something? Is that a problem?
Because originally they didn't even have like the briefcase boxes that were like preloaded in there. Like,
yeah, that's right.
I remember the first, like you just had all this like hardware like on the sideline or like in the end zone. And we actually had a coach who had an old like camera case that he wound up making this. And I have no idea if Huddle actually like took that idea or not. But
When that case showed up a couple years ago to school, I was like, oh, that's a game changer.
Well, because things would like overheat, or like if you were playing in rain, like in Wisconsin, it felt like it rained every other Friday, or like some type of precipitation where you're like, we can't just have these wires like hanging out like this.
Technology is great, and that's why I don't touch it.
Yeah, it's great for someone else to deal with. Your huddle guys love you for that, by the way. There are days I want to like stab some of my other coaches in the throat. Like, you can at least carry it, right? Like you said, you're like, hey, I'll carry it. I'll do all that stuff. It's like, that would be infinitely helpful.
I help carry it, and then I even offer. I just offer. I'm like, do you need anything? No, I'm told no, but at least I'm offering. Like some coaches just split. Like the first day we ever tried to set it up this year, I stuck around, and I was like, if you need something, I'll help.
Oh,
But just realize you're going to plug it in. I'm not touching it.
Yeah, no, it sucks being the last one off the field. You're like, I don't even get to be in the handshake line. I was putting like the press box stuff away, right? Like,
well, that's why like we're trying to have freshman coaches do it. Like they are getting shown how to do it. Yeah, and it's their job.
We're getting there.
Well, we have other coaches now take it down. So at least the varsity coaches can be with the team. So they know how to take it down and put it away. Yeah. Like if you can do that, that's fantastic. And then we have a maintenance guy or whoever. He's there to make sure it's all put away. So it's like it's fine.
Another benefit of having a third level next fall, hopefully, is like if we do have more coaches, like hopefully just bring in new guys and be like, oh yeah, this is totally the expectation, right? Like, you're supposed to be there Friday nights, and like, now you're in charge of huddle. I'll show you how to do it.
Well, that's all freshman coaches do that. I remember having to scout, like go scout a team. So that's just a part of it.
Yeah. I feel like when you're trying to like build a culture, change a culture, build a program, like you're like, okay, that's like important, but it's not like first or second level important. So it's I guess our freshman staff is a little different. We've had some turnover, but like one of the guys is like a priest at the school. So like he has a lot of other commitments and things he has to do. And he also like helps run our cards on the sideline, right? To like call plays. So we're getting there. Eventually I just need like coaching interns, right? Just like do my bidding, do what I need you to do so I can focus on like the important part.
Freshman coaches, that's what you need. Like, hey, you're a freshman coach. Here's what you need to do.
Which goes back to our original, I forget if we were even recording at that point, but like still looking for good coaches. Like if someone listening wants to come coach with me in the fall, we'll have spots available.
And I'll need to share that picture again. Like this is what you look at every day.
Yeah, and our practice field probably has a better view of the skyline, but doesn't have the tree lined. So you still have a little bit of city. Yeah, it's a great, again, I love coaching there. They take care of us. I have more Ignatius swag than anything else. That
happened when I went here. I was like, I don't mean to be rude. I just want some gear. I have a different outfit for every day now.
I mean, like when you go to a school, right? And it's like, well, we don't want you, especially if you coach somewhere else. It's like, well, we don't want you showing up in some other school stuff, right? And it's like, well, but like, that's what all my shorts are. That's what all my like, coaching jackets are. Like all my shorts with pockets. So that I don't think that's too bad. But then especially at like year after year, you're like, I got a lot of stuff.
That happened this year. I would leave football practice, go to basketball practice, but it's a different school. Now they don't play each other, but I had to make sure I changed. I was like, I can't be in Addison gear and then go to Nequa and wear this. I did it one day. I was in a rush and I walked in with Addison gear on. I had to go apologize. They're like, we don't play them. We don't care. And I was like, that's fine.
We have a few of our older coaches that have been coaching like longer than I've been alive. And like, they'll wear stuff from like schools that don't exist anymore. And you're like, okay, that's kind of cool, right? Like when it gets to like that vintage level, you're like, all right. They don't mean anything by it.
No, it's just, you need to wear something for practice.
It's just the same sweatshirt they've been wearing since like 1986.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care as long as it's not a school you play. I really wouldn't care.
That's all. I have this fear because I like told you for lacrosse going to a school that like we do play as like a rival, but like very similar colors. So I'm worried about getting like dressed in the dark or like grabbing the wrong shirt and like showing up. That's been like a recurring nightmare.
Just turn it inside out.
Yeah, I mean, I might just need to like pack like a go bag of like the just in case I'm an idiot. Like keep a shirt or like a pair of shorts like in the car kind of thing.
Yeah, like emergency.
Now that I have enough of them that I can do that.
That's what's happened already year one. I have so much stuff. I can just leave this at school. Like, this is here on this chair, and it's mine.
I don't even know what like the locker room situation is, right? But you're like, you talked about going from one practice to another. I don't know if, hopefully I don't have to do that. I hope there's not that much overlap. But yeah, where you're like, no, I literally need to like change in the car. Like I don't have a building to go into. Like I'm at the field.
Coaches, we can go in and sit in the office and use the bathrooms. Kids, we have this big long, we call it the mud room. It's just this big concrete hallway. They can go in there. But not
I wasn't even thinking like COVID related, but just like sometimes you're just like at the field, right? Like
yeah. I've done that already. Like I pull up to the school, I'm changing the shirt. Like I have to do this. I'm trying not to wear the shorts. I try to wear just plain colored shorts when I was doing that. Like I'm just gonna wear just plain black or plain blue because they're the same colors. It's like gold and blue, and then like blue and silver. Okay. So I'm like, I can just wear blue or black.
Yeah, I think you can get away with that.
Yeah, I was fine. Track, I just got a bunch of track. See, then I coach sports. I got all the football gear. I'm going to get all the basketball gear and all the track gear. My closet's going to be overflown.
I know. I haven't hit the point where my wife is like, you should really get rid of some of this yet. But I'm sure it's coming because
I'll put a tote in the closet and just fold them and put them in the tote. And now they're all in one spot.
Yeah, I have my own spot in like my closet, like a shelf of coaching gear where like, all right, I'm getting ready. Like back when I went to an office, right? Like get ready for the office, be like, okay, I know I need, right? Like shorts for practice, shirt for practice. Like it's all in one place. So I don't need to like dig around for it, but that's starting to like overflow.
Yeah. I think your dogs are ready to go.
I was going to say, he is looking at me longingly, and at least he's not barking, but he's waiting to go out. And my second one is being slightly more patient.
Well, we can wrap it up. I didn't realize how long it's been. Like, oh my God.
I was getting to the point, I was like, my throat's kind of hoarse. I was like, oh, I guess we have been talking for a while. And that didn't even include like the pre-stuff we did.
Yeah. I should have just recorded right when we got on, but it would have been longer.
Yeah, we can always do it next time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on again. This was more of the Joe Rogan style, like just talk.
I dig it. I feel like maybe like this is like half season episode. Maybe we need to do like a roundup at the end.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They can just complain about our kids.
Busy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Season. Well, I'll have track, but it won't be as bad. It'll be like track. I don't have to watch film and all that.
Oh, well, we can talk about, coaching stipends and that other sports think they're equal to what we do as football coaches and how they're wrong. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on again.
All right. Well, thanks for having me again. We'll do it anytime you need a guest, just give me a few hours notice, or not even a few hours. I can probably do it whenever.
Yeah. And everyone go check out the Flexbone 101. I didn't even plug that in. Go check out Flexbone 101.
Oh, right. That's what I do. Why are we talking? Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.